If you guys are new to my content, my name is John Figueredo, and I want to tell you guys a story about how I went from sleeping in my car and driving a limo to selling a $100 million company in a $1 billion transaction with Jay-Z as their chief visionary officer. And for those of you guys that stay to the end, I'm going to give you guys the top 3 tips that have fundamentally changed my life, and I'm so excited to share them with you. So I'm going to start all the way at the top. So when I graduated college, it took me about 5 years because I had a running injury that took me out for a few quarters, and I ultimately had a really bad nerve damage in my foot that allowed me to no longer compete at the D1 level, and I lost a piece of my identity. The piece that made me special, that made me different, was gone. And so I spent the next 10 years figuring out what that was because I wanted to create impact in the world, and I just didn't know exactly how I was going to do that, and I knew that business was ultimately going to be that conduit. So when I started in 2010, I moved to San Francisco, and the reason being is because if you want to be world-class at anything, you need to compete against the best in the world, and that's where I knew that they were. So I moved there. I was just working out of a guy's house because it was impossible to get a job unless you had an Ivy League degree, and I was working for 15 bucks an hour in San Francisco, which is minimum wage, and I needed to make money somehow. And so from there, I actually moved on to door number 2, which is I started driving a limo and sleeping in my car. I was also getting an apartment that I was getting half off rent, and I would rent it out with Airbnb in order to be able to pay the bills, and it really taught me the side hustle game. And that was important because it just showed me that you could do different things in this economy. And so I was complaining about how much money I was making to a friend, and he basically told me, he's like, well, what skill set do you have that no one else in the world has? I was really frustrated, and ultimately I knew that he was right, because you need to have a skill set that's different in order to differentiate yourself and have power, purchasing power in the market. So from there, I decided I wanted to get into technology because that's where a lot of businesses were being built. I started in customer service at a venture-backed company, and then from there I taught myself software development, which is basically back-end engineering. It's basically like a plumber, a digital plumber. And so I did that for about 3 years for a few venture-backed companies, and ultimately I started at a company called Teespring, which is the last one before Sisu. And how that worked is they were actually right about to go under a really hard time. The company now is worth over $1 billion. They're doing incredibly well, but we had 60 days to survive. And so we built a $60 million revenue stream from scratch with our team. And from there, one of the other projects that I worked on is in a weekend, I built a project that created $1 million in profit for the company per month. And they offered for me to be the VP of engineering, but ultimately I decided that I wanted to start my own company. But I'm so grateful for that experience because it allowed me to be an entrepreneur, to take kind of risk-free the ability to test my entrepreneurial capacity within a company. And so I had 2 options to go, right? So I had crypto that was happening on one side, and they were recruiting me for director of engineering. And then they had cannabis on the other side, which I really liked because it was recession-proof in the fact that it's counter-cyclical. And then the other thing is it's a $150 billion industry that was already going. It just needed to be converted. And that was the reason why I decided to move in that direction. So I started a company called Sisu. I raised $600,000 between 3-4 different people, and that was enough for us to buy the equipment and just get started. So we did $3.8 million in our first year, and it was everything that you could possibly have go wrong, went wrong, and it teaches you everything you need to know about business through proof of concept. So we did $3.8 million in the first year, and we did a thing called a 60-40 split that gave us 60% of the profit we gave to the cultivator that had the input material. And basically how the business model works, what Sisu is we would take unrefined goods, so we'd take biomass, basically a plant material, and we'd convert that into distillate. And distillate is the baseline compound that goes inside of vape carts, and we sell 30% of all of the vape oil that is sold in the market in California. And so we were doing that. We did $3.8 million in our first year. The next year we increased by 10-fold. So we increased by 500% our throughput capacity. And because we were up 500%, we switched it to a 70-30 split for the profit sharing. And we were still up 375% net. So that meant that both sides were winning, both the cultivator and our side. And the other thing that we built was a flower showroom that added another $60 million revenue stream from there that then built us up to $101 million in our third year. And the reason why that was important is that really got us up to the revenue level to where we were able to be acquired in the largest Canadian SPAC in history. That was a $1 billion transaction with Jay-Z as our chief visionary officer. And one of the things that I'm sure that you're asking is, why am I making this content? And so education has always been really important to me, and I didn't have a lot of mentors growing up, so I read a ton of books. And the reason why mentors are important is because it's like getting the best line in every book that you've ever read. It's the most efficient way for you to consume information because you can drop little lines that you'll grab through every single post that's been done. And because of that, you can grab information and really get to the edge of human knowledge faster. And so business isn't unique. It's really the same kind of fundamental components, but at the end of the day, the technology changes so it looks different, but it still has the same fundamentals. And so never in history have we been able to have our phones that you're looking at right now and be able to look and talk to a person that has sold a $100 million company, or billionaires like Mark Cuban or Ray Dalio, and being able to tap into their mind. And that is so important because it catalyzes human growth and what we're capable of. And so the main reason why I'm doing this is because I want to fundamentally change the world. And I know that if I can help teach the things to help cut the learning curve for the next generation, that will make the world a better place, because a more innovative world is a more prosperous world. And so that's why I'm excited to really share these tips that have changed my life. And so last but not least, I want to share a few tips that have fundamentally changed my life, starting with the first one. So one of the things my father always used to tell me is the bigger the base, the higher the peak. So whether it's athletics, you need to put in the foundation in order to reach your peak capacity, which few of my friends went to the Olympics. The same is true in business. You are going to have the highest ROI on your mind by investing in your education. There's no better investment in your whole life. And that's why it's so important to focus on the foundation of your life, because principles and habits are the two things, the foundation components that will get you there, because habits are energy optimization tools and principles are decision-making frameworks that allow you to make better than average decisions. So number 2 is the 80-20 rule. So I talk a lot about the top threes, and really it's a derivative of the 80-20 principle, which 20% of your actions are going to create 80% of your results. So on a daily basis, if you're focusing on your top 3 most important things that get the 20% of what you're going to do that day and get 80% of your results, your life will skyrocket because it's an exponential factor. And then number 3 is time is the most valuable resource on this planet. It is the most valuable resource on this planet, and money is just a proxy for time. And so that's important because once you internalize that, you realize that you want to have time to be able to do the most important things in your life, whether it's having more time with your family, focusing on a passion project, or having a mission-driven life to change the world. And you get to make that choice. And so the more people that I can help cut the learning curve to get to financial freedom, to get to that next company, to get spending time with family, this will create a better world for everyone. And so last but not least, if you guys find this content valuable, like, share, and comment for the algorithm, because I'm on a mission to help as many people buy back the most important thing in life, which is time.